You might have heard the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, recently testified on Capitol Hill about the thousands of threats facing America. But there's one enormous threat to the American public that he forgot to mention. Homeless people, or at least that's what many U.S. cities would like you to think. See, in the past few months, cities across the country have tried to deal with the problem of homelessness through an ingenious, out-of-sight, out-of-mind approach. Instead of addressing the systematic reasons for rampant poverty, city lawmakers are trying to eliminate the problem by forcing the homeless out of city centers and the public eye. Take a recent law just enacted in Columbia, South Carolina, that requires citizens to obtain a permit 15 days in advance and pay a $120 fee to feed the homeless in the city parks. Because according to Columbia officials, the homeless should be treated like ducks. Or take a look at what's going on just a couple states further south in Florida's Osceola County. Over the past decade, the county has spent over $5 million arresting and jailing about 36 homeless people over and over again for crimes like sleeping in public and panhandling. According to the advocacy group Impact Homelessness, from 2004 to 2013, Osceola County collectively arrested these same 37 individuals 1,250 times. They were incarcerated for nearly 62,000 days, costing the county a total of over $5 million. Keep in mind, it would have cost taxpayers $1.4 million less to house these individuals than jail them. Look, the poorest of society always has the smallest voice. So it's up to the rest of us to speak up for those who can't. And just maybe we should use that voice to drown out those who want to hide, criminalize, or simply wash away the problem.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You tuned into Video Radio while we talk about fear-mongering and fascism, one of my favorite subjects.
Well, fascism is rampant, that is a marriage between state and corporate power.
And that's happening right here in Kelowna, where it's a $500 fine if you lay down a blanket on the ground and sleep on it. That is war on the homeless. We've actually seen some editorials saying criminalize homelessness, and we believe that maybe you should solve the problem.
Well, I don't know who would win in a war on the homeless.
The homeless would. There's way more.
Yeah.
But they're not willing to get to that point. We talk about solutions right here. Thanks for rushing today. Right now, we're taking a look at Wal-Mart.
Yeah, apparently they voted against continuing the food stamp program, and they are reaping what they sow.
Check it out.
When sales figures are announced on February 20th, poor Walmart is looking to take a hit in its coffers. They are reporting that U.S. sales figures for its fiscal fourth quarter will most likely come in well below earlier reports. Walmart is claiming that the drop is due to the effects of volatile weather and cuts to the federal food stamp program. That's right, because fewer people were getting food stamp benefits, less people were shopping at Walmart. The twist is that a significant number of Walmart employees participate in food stamp programs across the nation in order to supplement their meager Walmart incomes. We have to wonder when a store catering to the lowest income brackets has become too expensive for America's lowest income brackets.
And it's funny to me, though, when you have a conglomerate like Walmart now complaining that we're not getting enough money, when I bet you dollars to donuts that the family that owns Walmart, all their CEOs and all that, because they're a heavy Republican, group, we're probably behind the food stamp cuts.
1 in 7 Americans, or 48 million, took a hit in 2013 when they cut the food stamp program. So you have that many people who suddenly, out of nowhere, had no help and is... the main thing with Walmart is that it's not only a question of people don't have as much food stamp money and people don't have as much money to spend, but they're also kind of taking a hit because a lot of competition is coming from dollar stores and small format chains. So people would rather go to the dollar store or the Dollar General.
Well, I think it's the evil empire thing. I think that there's a lot of people kind of seeing through the facade of Walmart for not only the abuses that they put on their employees and like other things like that I think that people are saying, you know what, I'd rather go to the dollar store.
So Walmart,
Yeah, their profits are down because the lowest paid people can't afford to shop at a store that caters to the lowest paid people.
We're trapped in a system right now. It's just like the French Revolution. If you live in this country, you're forced to attend to their monetary system, but the monetary system doesn't provide for you. And that's what's happening with the incredible rate increase on groceries and fuel. And of course, they're saying if there's any other solutions to solving hunger, well, we're going to stand in the way of it.
Well, maybe Jesus will come back and save everybody.
But that would be socialism.
Oh, yeah, right. He was a socialist.
Don't
That's right.
do that, man. And you're talking about generosity and sharing, and those are just not conservative values.
It's pure madness, I tell you.
Now, in case you haven't had your fill of insanity.
Speaking of madness, there's a retired general who was speaking at a evangelical convention lately who believes that our Savior is coming back with an AR-15 to slaughter his enemies.
Check it out.
Jerry Boykin is back in the news. The retired Army Lieutenant General who once described the war on terror as a holy war is now predicting Jesus will return to Earth armed with an AR-15. Boykin now serves as the executive vice president of the Family Research Council. He made the comment at a recent pro-family legislators conference in Dallas, Texas.
The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. And in Revelation 19, it says when he comes back, he's coming back as what? A warrior, a mighty warrior leading a mighty army, riding a white horse with a blood-stained white robe. And I don't know about the theologians, and I was at Dallas Theological Seminary yesterday, and I said, I'm not going to argue theology with you folks, but I believe that blood on that robe is the blood of his enemies, because he's coming back as a warrior, carrying a sword. And I believe now, I've checked this out, I believe that sword he'll be carrying when he comes back is an AR-15.
That's retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin.
So the sword of righteousness is an AR-15 rifle.
Yes, indeed. I am standing here with my mighty sword. Oh, wait a second. It's a pen. It's more powerful than his AR-15 now. And so is the camera that we're doing this videotape on.
Yeah.
We're talking about the conscious revolution and the way that nut bars like that get outed right away. And the internet is really starting to help out.
Yeah, it sure is, But, these Christian crazies are, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
You did. It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant evangelical...
Nut bars.
Nut bars. Okay, that'll work.
I don't know. Come on, man. Think about it. I don't care. I will defend anyone's right to believe anything.
As long as they don't force it on others.
Yes, and don't put it down my kid's throat.
Speaking of forcing things on others...
Yeah, good segue. Check this out.
Apparently the U.S. is pivoting towards Africa to protect U.S. corporate interests.
Hundreds of millions of American dollars are flowing into Africa as the Pentagon ups its spending on the continent. There's plenty of raw materials here. Nigeria, a case in point. The West African nation is America's fourth largest supplier of crude oil, accounting for 11% of all U.S. oil imports.
The American government has a lot of investment in Nigeria. They have invested so much in the oil and gas sector, and they need to protect that.
And that, believes Rafsanjani, is the real reason for U.S. troop expansion in Africa. Not to bring democracy, not to help the local populations, but to protect American interests. Africa is dotted with U.S. bases and a growing constellation of small American drone outposts. Camp Lemonnier, north of Somalia, has been America's main facility on the continent for nearly a decade. It houses about 4,000 military and civilian personnel. But at the end of last year, it was forced to stop flying drones in the area after a string of crashes and growing anger from locals. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says,
What is happening in Africa is so exciting overall, and we are really deeply engaged. And the President has instructed us to really try to light our fire under our efforts throughout the continent.
But what's not so exciting is the growth of jihadists and anti-Western groups across the continent. Thousands of American soldiers are gearing up for missions as part of the Pentagon's new strategy to train and advise African militaries to deal with the threat. It's not impressing those who live here.
The Americans have failed to combat terrorism in Afghanistan or anywhere else, and the same will happen here in West Africa. It's likely that their presence will even bring the terrorist threat to Senegal.
A number of African leaders have expressed concern about the potential militarization of the continent, fearful that America's expanding presence will bode badly for Africa and her people. Paula Slier, RT.
Nicolas Maduro has held Venezuela's top job for less than a year. It's been a rocky tenure as he battles to control record inflation and skyrocketing crime rates. Joining me now here in the studio with more analysis is Mark Weisbrod. He is co-director of the Center for Economic Policy and Research. And analysts say that while you're looking at a more equal society, you are looking at an economy that's pretty messed up. In terms of, you see exports in terms of oil, but really nothing else. What can Maduro do to try and stabilize this country's economy?
Well, it isn't quite as bad as, as it's made out to be. I mean, you have to remember, if you look at, well, why did people vote for this party again? Look at the last, 11 years or 12 years since the government got control over the oil industry, Venezuela has done very well. It's really only the last year and a half that you've had the really high inflation.
Let me ask you about the trajectory of these protests. How do you see things shaking out in the next couple of days?
Well, I don't know that they'll really get anywhere. I mean, again, they just had an election in December and the people voted for the governing party. And so I don't see where they're going to go. I think they look to someplace like Ukraine, which is another place where the U.S. government is very strongly supporting the overthrow of an elected government. Right. I think if they can get enough of turmoil, maybe violence, they can get this kind of a situation where they delegitimize the government as they, have tried to do many times.
Mark Weisbrod, thank you so much for coming in and offering your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we didn't anticipate putting two clips together.
But it works out sometimes.
So actually they're kind of about the same thing. For some reason, American interventionism, the boomerang effect, of course, being 9/11, isn't really on the radar of major media.
Well, there's a lot of U.S. hegemony going on, but I don't think major media says those two words together.
But we've got to get out of here because it's getting really windy right now. You probably just noticed that. I'm really happy about that. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
Stay tuned because we're going to come back with more solutions, right?
That's right.
And an answer to the question of why the heck don't Americans get out of other people's business?
Yeah.
So make sure you keep filming, keep the information going out there. Remember, the conscious revolution is occurring worldwide and things are changing just because of people like you keeping them alive on the internet.
We all are the resistance.
More than 100 communities across Canada came together today to protest pipelines and fight against tar sands expansion.
Hundreds of people gathered on Parliament Hill.
Native and environmental groups are spearheading many of the demonstrations.
Partout au pays, des manifestants ont dénoncé les politiques énergétiques du gouvernement Harper.
Protesters plan to continue to fight until they see change.
We cannot accept any more expansion of pipelines or tanker traffic on our coast.
They have to get through me and you and everybody else.
It's a historic moment and I think a big turning point for Canada.
When people stand together, shoulder to shoulder, as true allies to one another, stand in spirit and stand in purpose, there is nothing that we can't accomplish.